Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into something pretty wild, a really radical economic and social blueprint, one that was laid out thousands of years ago in the book of Leviticus. Seriously, it's a whole system designed to shape a society's relationship with land, with wealth, and with freedom.
Yeah, just think about that for a second. What if you could hit a giant reset button for an entire society? Imagine a system with a built-in failsafe, a mechanism to stop families from ever falling into permanent poverty, to keep wealth from just piling up in the hands of a few people. That's the big idea we're going to unpack today. This mandated, periodic, economic rebalancing for a whole nation.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with this idea of a Sabbath for the land. Then we'll get into the Great Jubilee reset. From there, we'll talk about this crazy concept that property belongs to God, which leads to all these rules for redeeming people and property. And finally, we'll uncover who the ultimate owner of everything really is. Okay, first things first. To really get the big picture here, we've got to start small, with this simple, repeating cycle of rest. And this wasn't about people, taking a day off. This was about giving the earth itself a break. So the text lays out this really clear rhythm. For 6 years, you do your thing. You work the land, you sow your fields, you prune your vineyards. But then, that 7th year hits, and everything changes. It's a Sabbath of rest, but for the land itself. All farming just stops. And this isn't some friendly suggestion. It's a direct command. And this number 7, it is the absolute key to this entire system. It's not just a random number, it's the foundational rhythm for everything. This 7-year sabbatical cycle, it's the basic building block for the whole economic structure we're about to get into. Everything, and I mean everything, scales up from here.
So you're probably asking, okay, if nobody's farming, what does everyone eat? Well, the text is super specific about this. Whatever grows on its own during that Sabbath year, it's for everybody. And look at this list. It's not just for the guy who owns the land. It's for his servants, the hired help, any foreigners living there, even the cattle and wild animals get their share. It's basically a built-in social safety net, making sure the whole community is provided for from this resting land.
All right, now let's take it up a notch and see how this all builds. Because after 7 of these 7-year cycles go by, something truly extraordinary is supposed to happen. This is like the grand finale of the whole cycle. So after 7 of these Sabbath cycles, that's 49 years, the text commands this huge celebration for the 50th year. It's called the Jubilee. You can think of it as the Sabbath of Sabbaths, and its whole purpose was to act as this massive economic and social reset button for the entire nation. And the core command, the heart of the Jubilee, is right here in this powerful quote. Now, that first part, proclaim liberty throughout all the land, that might sound familiar. It's actually inscribed on the Liberty Bell. But in its original context, it meant 2 very specific, very concrete things. First, any ancestral land that had been sold had to go back to its original family. And second, any Israelite who had sold themselves into servitude, they were set free, period. So the question you've got to be asking is, how could a society even function like that? I mean, why would you ever buy land if you just knew you'd have to give it back? Well, the answer lies in a totally radical redefinition of what ownership even means. And here is the crucial point. According to this text, the people, they never actually owned the land. The ultimate owner is God. You can't sell something forever if it was never really yours to begin with. This single idea underpins the entire Jubilee system. It's the whole ballgame. This just completely reframes the whole relationship, doesn't it? People were basically tenants. The text calls them strangers and sojourners on the land. So a sale of land wasn't really a sale at all. It was more like a long-term lease. And the price was actually calculated based on how many years were left until the next big Jubilee reset. Now, obviously, people weren't expected to just wait around for, up to 49 years to get their land or their freedom back. So the system provides this whole detailed set of rules for redeeming or buying back what was lost long before the Jubilee. And these rules could get pretty specific. For instance, the text makes this interesting distinction between urban and rural property. A house inside a walled city, well, that could become someone's permanent property if it wasn't bought back within a year. But a house out in an unwalled village, that was treated just like farmland. It was always redeemable, and it would always go back to the original family at the Jubilee. So this table kind of lays out the different rules. Family land could be bought back by a relative. An Israelite who had to sell himself into servitude was supposed to be treated like a hired hand, not a slave, and was always set free at the Jubilee. But, and this is a really important distinction the text makes, these protections did not apply to foreigners. The text is pretty explicit that it allows for the permanent ownership of bondservants from other nations. They were treated very, very differently from Israelite servants.
Okay, this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. We've seen how God is positioned as the ultimate owner of the land. But there's one more claim of ownership that really locks this entire social structure into place. And there it is. The exact same logic that applies to the land also applies to the people. The reasoning in the text goes like this. Because God redeemed the Israelites from slavery in Egypt, they belong to God. And because they already have a master, one Israelite could never be permanently sold to another. So in the end, looking at this ancient blueprint from Leviticus really forces us to ask a much bigger question, right? What is the purpose of our economic rules? Is an economy just meant to maximize profit and efficiency no matter what? Or should it be designed with other goals in mind? Things like social cohesion, preventing permanent poverty, and ensuring widespread liberty. This text offers one ancient and pretty radical answer to that question.